How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Yeah, no, I've had a great week up here in Chicago. Did a little bit of radio, a little bit of TV, and it's perfect. Now it's going to be 80 degrees, and I got to leave tomorrow.
Got to leave town now. Yeah, it's way too warm. So what did you think overall of the Bears draft? And before we get to specific picks and guys that you may be more familiar with than others, what did you think if you are evaluating the Bears and Ryan Poles' fourth draft, which quickly became Ben Johnson's first? What'd you think?
I thought it was a good, solid draft. I would put it in those terms, I thought it was a winning draft. I mean, they addressed, obviously, a little bit of everything if you just look at the positions. But they got a couple guys. I mean, their first two picks, and I'm a big fan of the offensive lineman, Trapillo. Is that how you pronounce his name? Trapillo?
Trapillo,
Ozzy. I'm a big fan of his too. So I would say their first three picks are all guys that got a chance to make a difference. I mean, I really do. And then from there, the defensive lineman guy, not just to go quick here, he's an aggressive, tough guy. Can he make enough plays? It depends on how they're going to use him. And then from there, the linebacker, anytime you get a linebacker, the first question that you should ask yourself, is this guy going to be a core special teams guy? And I kind of compare him to Sanborn and say, I don't think he's as good a linebacker. He's not as Sanborn, but he is faster.
More athletic.
And more athletic.
He can fly.
And he can fly.
Talking about Ruben Hippolyte.
Yeah, he can fly. So he should be a good special teams guy. And if he can be a backup linebacker and a special teams guy, then you got a good player. And I like the Newman guy. I'll tell you what, doing the Big Ten TV every week, this guy at Michigan State, talking to people up there, they felt the same thing. They said he is an athlete. He can play guard. He can play center. He can play tackle. So, I mean, he could end up being a fine. And then our guy, Kyle Monongai from Rutgers, I'm a fan of his. I would have liked to see the Bears. I guess the only thing is, I just know that a running back and running the ball is critical to this style of offense. Critical. And between the tackles running the ball. And he can do that. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised at the end of the day if he doesn't surface as being a heck of a lot better than what perception is right
Interesting.
now. Interesting.
Seventh round picks seldom do that. But now, ironically enough, Pacheco wasn't he a seventh round pick from Rutgers?
Yes, he was.
And he did what he does with the Chiefs. You know him from a Big Ten analyst perspective, but also Greg Schiano, one of your good friends, was his head coach at Rutgers. Is he at 5'9", 210 pounds, or whatever he's listed at, 4'6", 40, Dave? Does he have the speed to run away from NFL defensive backs?
No, he doesn't have the speed to run away, but I'll tell you what, he is quicker than he is fast. And when we see this kid play, and this guy, I was up at Rutgers during training camp last year, and I actually talked to him, and Greg loves him. I mean, this is a 5-year guy. This is a committed guy. This is a tough guy that will run between the tackles, and he's going to hold on to the football, and he's going to make positive yards. He will move the chains for you. I'm kind of a fan of his. I mean, as tough as Rutgers had it the last couple of years, I mean, the guy was the second leading rusher in the Big Ten last year. Come on. We had 3 backs go in the first 2 rounds from the Big Ten.
I know.
And this guy was the second leading rusher. So this guy is a football player. He's going to make the team, and he's going to contribute early. You watch this.
Mully, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm going to wait and see. I'm going to be very interested to see how it works out. Dave, I was saying, I feel like maybe there are older or injured running backs out there that may be added to this roster before it's all said and done.
I kind of like that, Mully. I like that idea, absolutely. We'll see what happens. But that's got to be critical if they're going to run, and they've taken a big step with the offensive line. They've taken a step by adding Colson at tight end. The one thing about Colson, I just want to get this out there. You got to remember, this kid goes from Idaho. Is that where he's from, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Idaho.
Gooding, Idaho.
To Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
And he lines up as a freshman for Jim Harbaugh. I mean, Jim runs a pro, get your hands dirty and hit you in the mouth offense. For this kid to be a contributor and be all freshman, all Big Ten, on the freshman team, the tight end that they picked. This guy, that's a lot to accomplish for anybody. So, you got to look at the history. I would throw out. I'm a big fan of Ty Warren. You know that, Mully. Okay,
Sure.
okay. But if you look at 1 year, Ty Warren is your guy. But if you look at the history of the player, then our man Colson, has done it year in and year out. And this year it was shambles at Michigan.
Bad quarterback play.
Oh,
and
God.
an injury he played through.
And an injury. I mean, throw out both years and then look and say, what have they accomplished? And you got to show off a real good football player.
Olin told us that when you watch tape of the kid, you can see him wincing on different plays when he
favoring his shoulder.
Yeah. When he goes down, hitting the ground, it hurts him. Like he is injured and playing hurt. And they could not use him in line because he had this shoulder injury. So he's most of the time doing stuff on the outside just because they couldn't use him the way they wanted to because the guy was, needed a surgery.
And the two guys they got between him and the Burton guy, they got two guys that are big time guys after the catch. You know what I mean? And that's what you got to have.
Matchup nightmares.
Matchup. I remember when I was at the Dolphins and the Patriots had Hernandez and they had Gronk.
Yeah.
And they used them, and all of a sudden they're both in line, on the line of scrimmage. Picture that. Okay, hey, we better get some linebackers in there and we got to defend the run, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they shift them out. And now they're both lined up
outside. Nightmares.
And now we don't have a linebacker that can cover Gronk.
Yeah.
So now you got to try to get a safety in there. I mean, if some of the stuff that Ben does is very difficult schematically on a defense. You got to really take some chances and say it's run, it's pass, whatever the situation might be.
But if you look at the Bears now in their passing game, which became more dynamic over the weekend, you've got DJ Moore, you've got Luther Burden, you've got Roma Dunze, you've got Colston Loveland, and then, the guy we're paying $9.9 million is Cole Kmet. He's your fifth option in the passing game, Dave. I wonder what that means for his future and how he will welcome this news. Even though the Bears' offense got better, it is different, and prioritizing where he is on the list of priorities in the passing game has changed.
Yeah, it has. It has, but I think it's changed in his favor. We've gone from everybody, all this week I heard people say, well, we never get the ball to Kmet. Last year we were a wide receiver on the edge type of offense. The tight end wasn't a major factor for Caleb. It really wasn't. And he's proven to us, at least to me, that he can make the difficult catch in a crowd and hold on to the ball. I think he's going to be fine. I really do. I think that it's going to be good for him. He's going to have to strap it on like all these guys, and they're going to have to improve. The competition is going to bring out the best, and I think, knowing his dad and the family at Kmet, I mean, this kid's going to rise up, and he's going to meet this challenge.
Yeah, Frank played for you.
He did. He did.
I remember him. Help me out, Dave. So, am I overstating it if I say that a running back is more important to play action than a left tackle? In other words, if you're lining up under center and you're trying to move as quickly as you move with faking a run and throwing the football off the line of scrimmage, don't you need the running back as much as you would need? The left tackle comes into play when you want to drop here and there.
Yes.
But the running back is huge for play action.
If you don't have a threat at the running back, a real threat, then I'm not going to call a defense where I'm going to be defending the run. You know what I mean? We're going to get you then. Yep. If you got a running back and the quarterback goes back to hand the ball off to him and he's a real running back, you are playing the run. And it makes the offensive line's job easy because they're playing run, and all of a sudden it drops back and throws the ball, and they don't have time to get there. I don't think the left tackle is as critical today. I gave you guys the getting stats. What I mean, the pro thing, that there hasn't been a left tackle that's played at a blue level in the last 10 years in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Played at a blue level. There has been centers. Centers has been the one position that has played the highest level year in and year out in the last 10 years at the Super Bowl. And then the other side, when you're throwing the ball's coming out quick. Think about it. If you're running it, you're not going to. You shouldn't end up in real long situations.
If that's true, and I think you could argue that because I do believe that left tackle is a premium position for a reason. Those are good.
We're just talking about play action.
It's a good philosophical argument, but if that's the case, then why did the Bears wait until the 7th round to take a running back?
I don't know. That would be if I was sitting down with Ryan. That would be the one question I would ask him.
He explained, his reasoning was that there are times during drafts where there are pockets where you don't fit. In other words, he was looking at clouds of running backs, and then when one of them wasn't where he was picking, he opted to move back because he was going to pick one there, but then they got taken and they weren't there.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
But at some point, you have to create
the
a pocket.
Bears went
David wants you to sew one.
Sew a pocket. Get out the needle and thread. The Bears went from creating this citywide debate over drafting a running back too early, moving up to draft Ashton Genty, to us discussing on Monday morning why they didn't get one until the 7th round. So it was almost like they were over prioritizing the position by going too far. Now they kind of like forgot about the spot. And they waited too long.
If we can't go up to 6 and get one, then we're not going to take one.
Yeah, but you can't. I hear what Ryan's saying. You can get trapped, just like, and I hate to use the word trap, just like with Luther Burden. He's sitting there. Picture it. We're sitting in the board. It's happened to me numerous times, and we're looking at a running back. Let's just say that.
Yes.
And we're saying this is the back. And all of a sudden, all of our first-round grades are going. Oh, God, we got 2 guys up here with first-round high grades on, and they're not drafted. I don't like the word value, but now you're taking a great, talented player that's proven it, and you say, well, we'll get a running back later, and it doesn't happen. Well, I've been involved in those, and that's the one thing that you don't know. Think about this, guys. Last year, there were the earliest running back in the Big Ten Conference, and I say that up because our listeners, was Blake Corum. Blake Corum went in the 3rd round.
Yeah.
This year, there were 3 running backs from the Big Ten taken before the end of the 2nd round.
Well, the Bears were at 39, and right before them, Travion Henderson at 38 went to the Patriots, and 36, Quinshon Judkins went to the Browns.
Yep.
Those are the 2 guys they were looking at.
And Mike Tomlin jumped up there. How about with Caleb Johnson, the kid from Iowa? When did they take him?
3rd round.
That was a third rounder.
Third rounder, yep.
Oh, okay. I was thinking.
See, that's the kind of thing. As much as you appreciate trading down and not overvaluating a player, jump up and grab one if you got to have that position. Mully Haugh, Chicago Sports Radio, 6-7 of the Score. We're here with Coach Wannstedt. Dave, as a general rule, when you look at a team coming out of the draft, do you feel like they made enough? They did a lot of work on both sides of the line in order to allow them to kind of get through the draft a little bit without having their hand forced? Or did they miss the opportunity to sort of really spend some time getting even better as opposed to drafting for whatever they felt was the best player at the moment?
No, I think they obviously they got some good football players. There's no question about that. And I would just, let's see how the running back thing unfolds. That's the only thing that I'm just going to be curious about. And maybe it's going to be Mononga is the guy, or splitting time with Swift. I don't know how they're going to do it. But the other thing, too, I would say is I think we got to look at the entire offseason of the Bears. So you combine your free agency along with your draft. And a lot of times we reflect back on last year and we say, well, we don't have the guy that can do that. Well, maybe we do. Maybe one of those free agent offensive linemen or defensive linemen, they're counting on filling that role. So I think we got to sit back and say, okay, let's kind of combine this thing now. Let's look at the free agency and the draft and look at our depth chart and see where we're at. And I think we're going to like where we're at.
I think it's just that we went into this draft, and a lot of the outside perception was that the Bears were going to get 3 or 4 starters because they had 4 of the top 71 picks.
Yep.
Right.
And how many starters can you identify on this list? I think you look at, obviously, Loveland is a starter.
Right.
Luther Burden III.
No.
Okay, so then the list goes on. So out of that, I know the depth is better.
But Burton's going to play.
He'll be a
lot.
He'll be a contributor. Yeah, he'll be a contributor,
Right.
probably starter, and we're quibbling over what to call him. But I do think that you wanted to be, or maybe we expected to be, and that was on us, more convinced that he came away with more starting players than it appears he did. These are depth pieces right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. How about DJ Moore is the veteran of that receiver group at 28 years old, so it's a young group.
Yes.
But I agree with you. Burton, he'll contribute. He had the second best run after catch average of any receiver in the draft behind McMillan at Arizona. So this guy makes plays out when you get the ball in his hands. The one thing that I would say, I think this is good with our man Ozzie Trapillo, the tackle from BC. I think that we're going to find out if Braxton Jones is a player or not. I mean, I think this is going to be legit competition here, and I think that Braxton is going to rise up and become a better player, or we're going to say, you know what, this is a close battle, and if it's a close battle, we've got to move on. So, there'll be some things like this that I think happen because of the competition.
Dave, there's a defensive back they took in the 5th round, Za Frazier from University of Texas, San Antonio. And this is the guy that the assistant coach, Al Harris, who we're expecting good things from, sent a text to the general manager. Hey, keep an eye on this guy. He'll be available on the 4th or 5th. He's very long. We feel like we can turn him into a cover corner and he can help us. And so he told that story. Poles told that story and said that, Al is, very excited to get the guy. I just wonder when you got a guy like Tyreek Stevenson there that is, we keep saying, well, Al Harris can work with him because Al played in the league and will be able to get through to him. This was a guy that you ran into problems with last year. Obviously, we know what happened in the Washington game. But also he walked off the field after he was told that he wasn't going to start as a result of that mistake. I just don't know. I don't know how a guy like that takes someone else coming in, especially if it's someone that his new coach handpicked. So I just, are they creating a little bit of an issue? Or is that who cares about it? But he doesn't seem like the most mature kid that they have on the defense.
No, but he might mature. I'm going to, because of the Miami connection, I'm disappointed in his actions last year, but he does have some ability. And Terrell Smith has some ability, the other corner. So, I think that the Frazier kid coming in, he's older than both those guys,
right?
By a couple years. He's a mature guy. And I've been told that this guy's a physical guy like Terrell and like Stevenson. So one of these guys is going to be a backup nickel. I think that's what's coming. Or maybe even move one of them to safety. Terrell Smith could be moved to safety tomorrow, and you could have Stevenson and this kid at corner along with.
Well, they better because they didn't draft a safety.
Yeah.
And they drafted a linebacker instead in the 4th round. I mean, they could have had a safety too. Yeah. That was another position we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where the tough thing and Olin, we were talking on the show Saturday about Brisker. He asked me about Brisker, and it's different if a guy's coming off a shoulder injury or a knee injury. You can see where it's at as far as the healing and the rehab. Boy, whenever it's a concussion in your mind, I mean, the guy could walk in tomorrow and have headaches. Yeah. And now what are you going to do? Because that was a weird one last year. I don't care what you say.
Yep.
I mean, what was it, the 4th, 5th game of the season?
And he finished the game and then couldn't play again.
Disappears for the whole year.
Yeah.
That was a strange one. Hopefully it turns around and everything's fine.